players, the personalities who come from around the world to play professional soccer in the United States.
Go, go, USA! Oh, it's incredible!
In a world where some call it football, football, or soccer, they dare to call it foosball. One thinks New York is blue, the other thinks New York is red. Soccer in America from a German perspective. Let them put some sauerkraut on your hot dog and join them for the Schnitzel Boys USA Hour.
Yeah!
Yeah!
Chris, you want some sauerkraut on your hot dog?
I have been making hot dogs lately, but I have not been putting sauerkraut. I should put sauerkraut on.
Yeah, you should. Let me
Yeah.
put some sauerkraut on your hot dog.
Please do, please do. I'm open for a package full of sauerkraut, my friend Bjorn, with a tongs and a note saying apply directly to the hot dog.
Let me put some sauerkraut on your hot dog.
Okay, it's USA Hour. Greg.
But really?
Greg is out. Greg should go out.
This is boring.
Hashtag Greg out. What's boring? What's boring?
He lost a friendly.
Okay, Bjorn, here we go. We're going right into it. We texted after the game, and you were pushing some of my buttons, man.
Which I enjoy doing.
I was very emotionally raw, that's true. But because there's so much to talk about. You talk about the Twitter fan base or whatever. And,
yeah. Well, just
Greg
know,
doing the best job of making ourselves play proactive soccer, which I really can't wait to challenge you on that one.
Before we get into it, and we're going to get into it, but before we get into it, let me just say, a lot of things, that I aim at you are really not aimed. It's not personal. I don't aim at you. I more aim at the U.S. men's national team fan base, because those guys alternately, they sometimes, it cracks me up, and I have in regards to this game, I have some things that I think are funny and some things that I think are really upsetting. And so, but anyway. You are just the stand-in for the real people. The real people I'm upset at, I don't talk to. So it's not you, obviously. It's the larger,
fair.
Yeah.
And that's fair, by the way. However, what I want to offer, that's very fair, by the way. And it's just not just the U.S. Mets fan base. It's rude to just say them. It's just the Twitter, the social media sphere in general.
Specifically, the specific, right. It's
crazy in a lot of ways, and the U.S. soccer fandom portion of it isn't any less crazy than any other part of the Twitter sphere. It's not like the Canadian fans are the reasonable bunch.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's true. Well, and I think anyway, we'll get to it. There's also some things that are not even, I think, specific to the U.S. necessarily.
Right, but there's been a lot of talking points that people like to debate, which you brought up a couple over the weekend. The old ones,
right,
and the ones that I used to have more time for with less evidence, but now with more evidence, I find to be not much of a debate much anymore.
Okay,
we'll talk about that in a bit. But the big turning point that I really felt over the weekend was, you're right, since day one there's been a clamoring of like, Greg sucks, Greg out, boop boop ba ba ba. And you know me, I wasn't a Greg out guy. I'm a very patient fan, a very reasonable fan. I think I'm an educated fan. And I had a lot of time for Greg. And I thought the Greg hire was actually very good. I think people calling it a Nepo baby hire and a this and that, I think was a little out of line. Like, I wasn't buying that, at least not 75. I wasn't buying a lot of that. Let's say that. But I think this weekend something finally happened that's been on the verge. And I think everybody has joined the crazies. All the reasonables are now part of the Greg out camp as well.
It does feel that way. I think it does.
They've crossed the line.
It does seem that way. Yeah, a lot of I definitely saw. I had that observation too. A lot of people where I was like, "Oh, you were a more nuanced person," and is also now like, "Well, it might be time." Yeah,
I put myself in that category. I put myself in that category, by the way.
But guess what? Bad news for all of you all. They're not going to fire him right before the Copa
No.
America. There's no chance of that.
No, I agree.
So this is why. Let me just, we're 5 minutes in. Let me just offer you.
Comments. Daniel Young, hello. Looking forward to NYCFC game. Now, this is the Gregg. This is the Gregg hour. Okay,
No, we're going to talk about NYC. But well, I just will offer. I could give you this. You're all pumped up, obviously, but there's also a world where we just let this go because, and it's maybe it's not worth talking about even because it's a friend. Obviously, they're not going to fire him right before the Copa America, and also obviously, this Copa America is a big effing tournament for Gregg.
Yes, it is.
No, like this is a big summer, and the pressure's on. So, like a month from now, nobody's gonna care about this Colombia game. This is gonna be completely irrelevant, and it's already pretty irrelevant. And so, there's also a world in which there's no reason to really talk about this much at all.
Well, that is a world that exists. It's also the world we almost live in because we are talking about a lot, but ultimately it's a friendly. It doesn't matter. That's also a fact. However, there's another world that I hope is true, but I know to my heart is not true. No, I really, really, really hope it's true.
And also,
is that the United? Hold on.
No,
is that the United States are really diving the Colombia game and are about to dive the Brazil game on Wednesday to lure Colombia and Brazil into a false sense of confidence so that when the United States plays them for real in the quarterfinals, that they're going to come with such a surprise sucker punch they don't expect. And that's been the big grand plan all along.
1954 all over again.
All over again. When the Germans dived against Hungary. I would love for Gregg to be like, all right, boys, we're going to pull off. You're going to go out there and you're gonna be slow. You're going to make mistakes. We're going to offer very simple tactics. We're going to offer him simple schoolboy tactics.
75th minute. 75th minute. He'll be like, all right, this was pretty good. Would have been nice to get the equalizer before we tank this, but Cameron, you go in there and you just completely muck this up.
Jeff Cameron?
Cameron Carter Vickers.
Oh, Cameron Carter. Yeah, Jeff Cameron. Yeah, I would love for that to have been like the wink plan all along. The old rope-a-dope, the bait and switch. I really
doubt that.
But I'm with you. I'm just too smart. I don't think that's what happened. I think what happened is a really good Colombia team just railed a really poor
I think
team.
my other evidence for the case of maybe this is not worth talking too much about is this also was not as bad a game as the results would suggest. Like, these games, it was like 3 late goals. Those were pretty terrible. But up to that point, it was not an awful outing against a very good Colombia team. They haven't lost in 21 games or something.
They haven't lost since they're on a winning streak since before the last World Cup. But it's a World Cup they didn't qualify for. They weren't at the last World Cup.
All right. Well,
the day after they missed World Cup qualification, they started this. They had a new coach and started a winning streak, and they haven't lost a game since. It was a little bit like that NYCFC game against the
Earthquakes, where we won 5-1. It was also not as dominant a performance as the results suggest, and I think that was the case here too. But of course,
the San Jose Earthquakes are doing just fine, as you know.
Right, they're not Colombia. Well, Colombia is significantly better than the Earthquakes. I guess is the point I'm making. But
hold on. In the scenario, NYCFC is Colombia. The Earthquakes are the United States.
Oh, right. Yeah, I would say
you're switching your teams. San Jose. So what you're saying is the U.S. are in the same boat as the San Jose Earthquakes.
I'm saying.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
I agree.
Well,
they are that
fair.
bad.
Yeah, no, that's not the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to say is that people hate Gregg. A lot of people hate Gregg. So obviously, a 5-1 result, no matter what the game actually looked like, will bring everybody out. And But anyway, go ahead.
But Bjorn, it's not an isolated.
So
incident. It's
I've
not
made
like he was
my
amazing.
case. I've made my case that this is not a big deal or not worth getting that upset over. But now, take it away.
Is your case predicated on the fact that simply just it's a friendly, so don't worry about it? That's it?
Yeah, it's a friendly.
Do you feel
yes,
this is an isolated incident?
No. My point is this Copa America tournament is Gregg is coaching for his job. He needs to.
Right.
If this is not a resounding, if the outcome of this tournament is not a resounding success, he's gonna lose his job. And that is how these friendlies go against Colombia and Brazil is completely irrelevant to that. One way or another, if they beat Brazil 5-1 on Wednesday and get kicked out in the group stage, then he's still losing his job. So this doesn't matter. The Gregg, this is the summer of yet another referendum on Gregg. But it's not going to be those friendlies that make a difference one way or another. And there's nothing that can happen in these friendlies that's going to make people fire him right before this tournament, which nobody should do anyway. That's completely crazy.
I agree. No one would. I don't know anyone would. He's the coach.
So the games in the actual tournament are going to be vastly more relevant than these friendlies.
I mean, there might be a universe where the U.S. gets butt slammed 6-0 on Wednesday against Brazil, and the brass, Matt Crocker, has to be like, "Yo, did you lose the locker room? Like, should you have the summer, or should we fire you and give the summer to BJ?"
But then who?
And I would actually
BJ
to
again,
BJ.
right?
We all love
BJ. BJ is the savior.
But
right.
But hold on. But what I just
and
said, that
Ethan
could
Horvath.
be. Oh, but hold on.
Okay.
That I do believe Ethan Horvath should play this summer, but I if that happened, I wouldn't be shocked. If we just got because he lost the locker room. If you lose the locker room, finish it right then and there, right? I mean, there's no point to having extra days. So yeah, the reason this is such a big deal is because we've all had enough. It's not an isolated incident. It's just more of the same. There's all this evidence of people like, no, he's fine, versus a no, he's not fine. And it just teeters and teeters and teeters along. And there's people, it's like, oh, but he's playing proactive soccer. Oh, he's done, his winning percentage is excellent. It's like, yeah, but that's only against Mexico. His record against Mexico is excellent. But that's it, And then the proactive soccer, it's like his tactics are very predictable. Other teams read us right away and use it against us and beat us. A quiz, Bjorn. In Gregg Berhalter's 6-year tenure as U.S. men's national team coach, what is his winning percentage against teams in the top 20, not named Mexico?
I don't know. It's not good. I read the stat.
7%.
Okay.
That's really, really low.
But these are again mostly friendlies, right?
It does. I mean, I don't know. The Netherlands wasn't a friendly. I'm sure the Netherlands is part of that record.
We've had this discussion before. I thought they played very well against England.
They did
at the World Cup.
Yeah, and like I said, challenge you on that. I thought our prior World Cup performances were superior. So the big talk is this. Now there's a lot of stuff. The something you like to
World
offer.
Cup performances when they lost to Iran. You mean or
not 98? No. 2010, 2014 were not any worse than 2022. So you're offering me that Gregg is as good as Jürgen Klinsmann is. That's your defense.
Oh my God, yes. Jürgen Klinsmann you want back? I think he's available. Like he would come tomorrow.
No, there are people who want him back. Those people are nuts too. No.
I think that's absolutely that you will. If we want anybody who wants Klinsmann back immediately loses all credibility in my book. Like
Me too.
that's
Me too.
That's
Most of it, at least.
Crazy.
And there are people like that. True, that's true. There's all sorts of stuff. But the thing is this: what you've said several times in this podcast is you've said that there's a narrative that this is a super golden generation and Gregg is fucking it all up because he's an idiot. And you don't buy that for a second, right? So
do
that's
not.
a bad narrative.
I think I agree, yeah.
I disagree with it. I challenge that.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to go to the same extremes. I'm not saying this is some super golden generation and Greg's screwing up. However, and we talked about when you texted me the 2002 lineup over the weekend, there's this talk about the 2002 team being better and stuff. And it's like, man for man, our current crop of players is better in almost every position. Not goalkeeper, maybe, but that's another topic. And what made those teams better was the fact that they were a great group. They were a really good team. They got together. Bruce and then Bob and then I guess Jorgen really got the team together. And they really got them playing greater than the sum of their parts. And they gave us some great performances that are lovely. Now we have this. Then there was this gap of where we missed some talent, and 2018 happened. And then we have this boom of all the MLS academies and the popularity of soccer, where we got a lot of great young American players coming through. And that is, maybe it's the golden generation, or better yet, hopefully it's the new norm. And I really hope that's the case. That it's just the beginning. There's academies that just churn them out like Kevin Sullivan and all these other youth. Just the new kids are coming, and it's just getting more and more and more. And the national team pool gets deeper and deeper and deeper. I hope that's what's happening. I think the national team pool right now is in pretty decent shape, and I would consider the national team pool in better shape than it's ever been. Ever. Our national team pool is deeper than it's ever been. However, we're not performing any better than we used to. That's A. And B, we're also playing ugly soccer. It's not passing the eye test. That's kind of why people love BJ so much. He was a nobody. He was some fitness coach or something. And he just kept it real simple. He didn't offer them too much like Gregg does. And it's very clear that's what Gregg is doing. He just let them play. And it was such a breath of fresh air. It's like, hell yeah, this is what we want. We want them to kick a long ball if they feel fit. We want them to improvise a little bit on the field. We want them to diversify their point of attack. We don't want it to be the same crap over and over again that any decent coach and team can read like the back of their hand, like a Colombia did. That's kind of why the Colombia talk's big talk. They looked at it and were like, if we just high press them and let them fall upon themselves, we'll win this game. Easy peasy, done. Tactics analyzed, did. The idea of not playing out the back, the idea of switching it up, none of that showed up during the game yesterday. Over the weekend against Colombia. And that's on Gregg. Sure, the players underperform, but Gregg is the coach, 6 years. He needs to set them up to succeed. And right now, he's just loving the smell of his own farts. And he's just feeding them this nonsensical play out the back positional play that's from the 90s, from Holland, that people can read like the back of their hand. And our national team just isn't playing with the freedom that we want them to, okay? Are they world beaters? No. But this is a quality team. The game against Colombia was the first time a U.S. team had a player from one of the top 5 leagues in every position, ever in the history of our program. That's what we've been clamoring for. It's finally here. Yes, a couple people aren't playing and whatnot, but overall, the quality of our squad is very good. Better than it's ever been. Again, I stress, not as good as France, not as good as Brazil, not as good as Germany.
Not as good as Colombia either.
I challenge that. Because the Colombians are a great team. They're playing as a team. But the clubs they play for, a guy plays in Qatar, a bunch of them play in Brazil, a bunch play in Colombia. They're not, those players don't play for Real Madrid and Barcelona and Arsenal and Man City.
But neither do the U.S. men's national team players.
That's true. Therefore, why was one 5 times better than the other? The only difference between the two is a capable coach.
Well, Luis Diaz also doesn't hurt. He plays for Liverpool.
Pulisic plays for AC Milan, man. We got 2 on Milan, we got 2 on Juventus, 3 on PSV. You're not allowed to look at U.S. players and think they're a bunch of gritty Columbus Crew players, okay? Like the 02 squad was and the 06 squad was. The difference is that the individuals are great, but as a collective, they're just failing the eye test. They treat small minnows like they're pulling teeth, and they cannot offer much, if anything at all, to decent opposition. And it's 6 years in, so it's someone on Twitter, I think it was 11 Yanks or someone, was like, what we want isn't unreasonable. We want a team that can beat the Minnows home and away, no problem. We want a team that plays well against even opposition. Stop, hold on. And we want a team. What are you laughing at? This is the old. I'm talking about the Bruce Arena teams.
We want to beat we need to win every game against teams that are worse than us, and
Considerably worse. We don't want to go to Bjorn. We don't want to go to Trinidad and lose 2-1 anymore. We've done that way too many times under Greg. Way too many times. I don't know why we ever do that. Or Bruce Arena
or anybody else.
Right. Why are we still doing that?
CONCACAF road games have always been a problem.
It shouldn't be. Not for us.
It shouldn't be, according to who?
According to... our players are way too good to go to Trinidad and lose 2-1. Would Germany go to Trinidad and lose 2-1? Never.
Well,
Never in a million years.
Germany had some problem. When they had to travel to Malta or and play on gravel or whatever, they would get ties. It's not like...
You're reaching, Bjorn. You're reaching. You're reaching here. All we want is this.
I think
all we want is this. Let me offer the last thing of what we want. We want a team that when they play against superior opposition like a Germany, like a Brazil, they know they've been in a fight. That's it. We want a team that when we play even teams like us, we can win maybe more than half. At least half of those two. At least half. Not 7%, a 50% winning record, at least. And when we play against Trinidad and Guatemala and Honduras, it's not a late minute goal. When we play against Jamaica, it's not a Corey Burke handball or own goal in the dying minutes. We don't want that. We want a team to beat them 3-0, 2-0 away. They're the better team with better players. That's what we want. And that's not too much to ask. That should be an average expectation for this national team pool.
All right.
I mean, you challenge that?
You're going to be I predict you're going to be in for a long road of pain, even if Gregg gets replaced by whoever.
No. When Gregg gets replaced, he needs to be
This is all going to happen. This Eden, this utopia is going to come to fruition. We're going to find out.
It's not a utopia. I just said we're going to lose. I'm just asking.
This has never happened before.
Back.
This has never happened.
Yes, it has.
In 2010? What happened in 2010?
We have better players. Therefore, it should be a minimum expectation. You're not allowed to sit there and say because we're as good as worse players, it's fine. It's not fine. We have better players, so we should be doing better. All right? That's on the coach. No one has anything good to say about Gregg. No great coach does. The only people who want him are the players, and I challenge that because maybe he's a little too easy on them, or he has a type of relationship with them that's maybe not not ideal for a head coach player relationship. We just want, what I want is this. I want a manager who sets them up to succeed, and that's really it. I don't want him to overcomplicate the tactics that he's so fucking proud of, that are so boring and so predictable, and the reason why we've been inchworming along for the last 6 years. I just want anybody else. Now here's another thing, Bjorn. We used to hire coaches that won titles. That stopped being a prerequisite when Gregg was hired. All of a sudden, it's like the same with Klinsmann. Klinsmann had no titles. Bob barely had a title. When we hired Bruce was a winning coach, back-to-back titles. He was the title-winning coach. Why aren't we hiring coaches that have titles under their belt? That should be a minimum requirement.
Like who?
Don't give me the like who. I don't fire. I knew you were going to say that. That's another Gregg in guy. It's like, who are you going to replace him with, though? Who are you going to replace him with, then? Wilfred Nancy. I'll take Steve Trundle. I'll take Jim Curtin. I'll take David Moyes. I'll take Sam Allardyce. I'll take Julian Lopetegui, who really wanted the job. I'll take Roberto Martinez. I'll take anybody.
Oh, my God. Don't get me started on Roberto Martinez. He's
4 years ago. Hold on.
Roberto Martinez squandered an actual golden generation with Belgium.
Yeah, but that was before. This 5 years ago, I would have let. Now, maybe I'm not super crazy about him. But 5 years ago, when he was up for the job, I thought he would have been perfect. But it doesn't. What I'm saying is, you're not allowed to be like Gregg's our only option. What world do we live in where some middling non-MLS title-winning coach who's hired by his brother is our only option?
No. So you should make up your mind if the nepotism is a problem or not. You said before it wasn't.
I said I wasn't 100% convinced it was.
I think that, for example. Well, where to begin? Where to begin?
It boils down to very simple math.
Okay,
we have better players. Why aren't we better than we used to be?
Well, maybe the players aren't aren't better. Is
They
that a
are.
possibility?
It's not a possibility. It's a
Okay.
ridiculous take. They 100% are better.
All right.
Why aren't they better? Tell me. Who's better? Who is better?
It's still a very young group. There's not a lot of
They were young 3-4 years ago. Now they've got World Cups and Gold Cups under their belts, and they're in their mid-20s. And they've got Champions League titles. And they're playing in the top 5 leagues.
Giorena, if you want to go through it, like Balogun
Let's go through it.
Yeah. Well,
You've got 3 players, maybe 2 or 3
let's look
players.
at the
Everybody else is not fit your narrative.
You're just deciding that. But anyway. No, but who on the national team, on the U.S. men's national team, would you say would start for Germany? 0 people. Pulisic.
Yeah, Pulisic maybe. Yeah, 50 goals in Serie A.
Maybe. But you going to pick him over Musiala? You're going to pick him over Leroy Sané? No, I wouldn't. Starting lineup over Florian Wirtz?
Yeah, but what are we talking about? I don't know why you're bringing this up. What are we talking about here?
Well, if we're playing,
the better comparison is the 2002 team you sent me.
Yeah, but
2002 USA
that's 22 years ago. It's a little bit apples and oranges. If you're comparing the top 5, and I mean, there's a bigger gap. I would say the gap between the top 5 leagues and the rest of the world is bigger now than it was then. So I think that's one.
Sure.
That's one thing. I think somebody who was playing in whatever second division or championship or whatever, that was not as big a drop as it is now. That's one thing. So
perhaps
I think this what you're saying is, I think Gregg is who he is. I think there's lots of reasons. I think if people say his brother is I thought I like Gregg kind of. I met him briefly at an NYCFC game. We had some. I think he's a nice guy. I have a bias, I guess, in that sense. Do I think he's the greatest coach ever? No. Do I think he was a good hire at the time? Yeah, you did too. It was like among the people who were. If somebody's like, oh, his brother works for the Federation, it's a nepotism thing. I mean, I think that's a fair criticism. Obviously, you can't. You don't know what's in people's hearts. But I thought he was definitely a legit candidate. It wasn't like he came out of nowhere and you're like, oh, this guy? No, he was a good hire. Now, the second World Cup cycle obviously is always a problem. Should he have got, we definitely saw that in Germany. Löw should not have kept the job after 2016 for sure. There's other examples for that. So if you say, and plus this complete nonsense with the Reynas and he was suspended, all this stuff. Like, should they have maybe not brought him back? I mean, you can make that case too. I think that's completely legit. And most importantly, what I said before, if this Copa America goes poorly, then he's history and we're going to see what happens next. So I think I'm not saying it's crazy to want a different coach. What I do think is crazy is this like made up what you just said. It's like, and I think your take is obviously more, again, here I'm blaming you for things that I read from other people. But this like basically the underlying idea is like, well, we used to not care about soccer. Now we care about soccer, so we should like be the best, or we should we should be like good, like everybody, like the good countries. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe not. It's not, these are not like preordained. What you're saying, like, oh, we're gonna be like, Germany's not like that, where they blow everybody away. England's not like that. England has not won anything since 1960. It's like, it just doesn't go that way, where you're like, oh, we need to be a team that blows everybody away, that's worse than us for sure. I mean, the history of my following the German team is like constantly, the pundits being like, that wasn't really that good, was it? And they've like won. I mean, I think that's
also the press.
It's in general. I think it's in general.
That's the press.
It's many fan bases
It's a press with pressure. It's a whole other topic.
Okay.
But Bjorn, real quick side talk, then you'll continue. How
All right.
many major titles has Germany won since you've been following the team?
Oh, in my lifetime,
How many
World Cups.
And how many Euro Cups?
And 2, right? 2 in my
Probably,
lifetime.
right?
3,
96.
actually. 3. I mean, 92. I was barely.
You've witnessed Germany winning 6 of the world's greatest titles of all time.
But that's what I'm saying.
You're not
and
allowed
still,
to sit there and be like Germany. Like you're not allowed to sit there and be like the U.S. can't expect to be. I don't know. That's
people.
the
But
6
people,
major titles that team has won. They
but
do
people
blow out
kvetch.
teams.
People kvetch nonetheless. Like, and now we haven't.
Right.
My,
Because they have
my
real
point
pressure
is.
and real press.
My point is this fairy tale land where your team just blows everybody away. That just doesn't exist in the game. There's always tough. There's always tough
and that's
opponents.
not what I said. That is not what I said. By the way, you know that's not what I said.
You said. All right.
Yeah, we need to beat comfortably the minnows. Is what I said. I didn't say we have to below everybody.
You said
away.
we should beat and we should win every CONCACAF road game, and we should beat Trinidad 3-0 instead of. I mean,
Yeah, those are the minnows.
yeah, but
Those
there's
are minnows.
always.
They're Caribbeans. They don't have enough money to pay the Jamaican star refuses to play for Jamaica because they can't afford a decent flight. That's who we're playing against here. Okay, there's no reason we go there and they're beating us 2-1. What the heck's
But
that
it's
all
always
about?
like, yeah, okay. So I guess this has never, that's what I'm saying. This has never happened before. And so now you're saying, well, now the players are good. You're just making that determination. The players are no good. And so this is how it should be. And the only person who's standing in the way of this is Gregg Berhalter. Like, it's never just one thing, right? It's never just the coach is bad. I mean, you see this wherever you know, NYCFC, we just went through this last year. Nick Cushing, everybody would want to run him out of town. And now he's good. It's like there's more to it than that.
I see absolutely no parallels between the U.S. program and NYCFC.
Well,
it's
I mean,
club.
it's okay, fair.
That is an issue.
And it's been
Gregg
it's
does
been
coach-
6 years, and
Gregg coaches the national team like a club coach, and that's his big criticism. And it's true, and it's why we're not succeeding like we
all
should
right.
be.
So I'm not gonna. I will make my points quickly. So I said. So one thing is like this idea of your fantasy about how good the team should be is like your fantasy. It's not based on reality or history or anybody else. It's like the player pool is better maybe in some ways, maybe not in others. It is what it is. We'll see. Then also the alternatives also always is real. Like, who are you going to get? You're not going to get Carlo Ancelotti. You're not going to get Klopp. You could have gotten Jesse Marsch or Tata Martino maybe for the last cycle. Either of those, like, you think significantly better? I don't think so. I think it's comparable. I think that's my general take. These ideas of like what the team should be. I think that bugs me always, not just with the US fan base. It's like when the pundit says, "Oh, he should have scored that. Oh, he should have." Like, what do you say? Like, you just didn't try. You just decided, like, "Oh, I'm not gonna." It's like why?
Yeah,
what?
but Bjorn, we've seen it. It's been offered to us. We had a taste of it. We're like, that's it. And it's gone
This is like
because Gregg comes
the
back.
two like BJ Callahan.
Before Gregg was coach, it was like that, and then so under Dave Kasarikin was like that, under Bruce was like that, and then Gregg came in, something changed, and when Gregg left, it went back to the freeways again under BJ, under Anthony Hudson, and it was like, yes, yeah, that. And
Anthony
then it's like,
Hudson.
tough,
Now you're gonna
tough. Gregg is back. It's like, damn it. And then we get 5-1. There's like Colombia, and we get Trinidad or the Jamaica handball back. It's all back. It's like, damn it, Gregg. You had your one cycle. You should have never been rehired. To be, and on your point about the player versus the Gregg, it's not that extreme, but we do have a man for man. I think you're understating how good our players are. I think the entire player pool is a whole level above than our old school playing pools, except for the goalkeepers. But like I said, the game has evolved. That might explain a little bit of that. The whole, we're not going to get Jurgen Klopp, Carlo Ancelotti. I'm not like that. I never was. Someone on Twitter is like, Jurgen Klopp is available, and I responded, no, he really isn't. Not even just to USA. He's available to nobody right now. And that's not really the thing. But it's not unreasonable to have a team that regularly beats the teams it's worse than comfortably, has a 50% winning record against teams that are similar to them, and like I said, plays elite teams like a Germany and knows they've been in a fight. Under Klinsmann, we beat Germany twice. I mean, we beat Germany a lot. Under Klinsmann, we beat Italy. Under Klinsmann, we beat the Netherlands. Again, I know they were friendlies, but we just played better soccer. We weren't trying to reinvent the wheel. To me, it boils into the simple eye test. Is it just a simple game where the players are playing, the defenders are defending, and they're when Colombia high pressed us, the idea of doing a long ball over them never, ever, 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 ever reared its head, ever. And we've seen this so many times. What's up with the inflexibility of Gregg's teams? So, yes, I thought Gregg's hiring was very good. He was the anti-Klinsmann. That was a very good choice. And he had a pretty good first cycle. I don't have a lot of complaints other than the fact that we play ugly soccer. And now here we are in the second cycle, and it's like, man, our tactics are getting even older, and our players are getting even better. So it's like, I agree, Gregg's not going to be fired before the Copa. And I think if you ask me 6 months, if we comfortably get out of a group and lost to Colombia in the quarterfinals, which is what the computer analysis would say is what's about to happen, then he should still keep his job. Now I'm saying if that happens, fire him. Just get a new coach. Not because he's bad, because he did his time. It's been great. I want to move on with a coach who doesn't overcomplicate our players with old school tactics. That's what I want. I just want a coach who lets the players play a little bit, treats it more like a national team job where it's a selection every few months, not a club job, and lets them just play with a little freedom. Mix it up, long passes, short, but use some soccer IQ. Figure out the other team, That's what I want to see. And I just don't think it's an impossible thing. I think for the U.S. soccer brass, they should make that happen. Over the summer, we still have 2 years to the World Cup. Fire Gregg. Get a new coach for the World Cup.
So I'm not going to ask you who.
Yeah, because that's a stupid question.
So are you...
not a stupid question. That's aggressive. I'm saying that's not the talk right now. I mean, if I had to fire Gregg tomorrow and replace him, I'd hire Wilfred Nancy.
That's always the question. It's like, who can you get? And is
Wilfred Nancy, a title-winning coach. Here's another quiz for you, Bjorn. The last 4 Columbus Crew coaches, who's the one coach who didn't win an MLS Cup with that club? Of their last 5, Barrel is the only Columbus Crew coach not to win a title with that damn club. That's crazy. Ziggy Schmidt won, Robert Zarzija won, he won the Supporters Shield, and then now Caleb Porter won, and then Wilfred Nancy won.
So you should hire Caleb Porter next for the national team job.
Is there no validity to that? The fact that of the last 5 coaches, Gregg is the only guy who couldn't get a title out of that team?
I think,
and he got the national team job as a reward of that? What the hell is that? I mean, Caleb Porter, I'd take Caleb Porter over Gregg at this point. He's got 2 titles with 2 different clubs.
Okay.
It's not unfair to have a prerequisite be a guy who's won at least 1 title in his professional coaching career.
Yeah. All right.
Bruce won a bunch. Bob was a little weird because it's been a while, but he did win. Bob was fine. Jorgen was also odd because he won none. The bronze medal, I guess, with Germany. But that became a thing. And then when it came time for a new coach, it's like, let's get Gregg. Why? Oh, he's decent. He got fired very quickly in Sweden. And he's been doing pretty okay with his Columbus Crew team. It's like, okay, Crew's better now than they've ever been. Way better than under Gregg as the Crew now.
Well, Tata Martino was the big alternative that everybody wanted. The thing is...
Not me, but he would have been fine too. I don't know.
And
Tata's
Jesse
fine.
Marsh, I don't know. We'll see how he does in Canada. You got a tie against France, so he must be great.
I mean, the talk in the town was Jesse Marsh supposed to get this cycle. I thought that was very reasonable. But anyway. I mean, like I said before, I'm also perfectly fine with like a dude like David Moyes. I'm sure he would have loved the gig.
David Moyes. All right.
Just someone proven, someone with a little experience.
He's
someone
available.
With a title, someone who speaks good English, someone who understands the American player. There you go.
10 for 10, David Moyes.
So that's my, and
right.
so that's me. That's where I'm coming from. And I've heard. I'm also boiling down a lot of opinions. I heard from the likes of Taylor Twellman, Tony Miola, Lexi Lalas, Bruce Arena, Jimmy Conrad, Charlie Davey. The pundits. And then Adrian Healy and Franco Panizio criticized the U.S. soccer media, calling them soft. And that's the first time you heard it from the media. That's a whole other thing. Like we don't have to get into that right now.
Well,
and then,
yeah,
but what I'm saying
about that too.
And then Freddie Adu came out and did a whole thread. I'm telling you, it's coming from everywhere, man.
I mean, it's true. But
the only person who defended Gregg was Colin Cowherd. Do you see that?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Taylor Twellman shared it and said, "Sorry, Colin, you're wrong." And Colin Cowherd's Twitter is just all like Tack Manager and 11 Yanks, all the big like YouTube channels and the Twitter threads that everyone follows, all of them in a row. Be like, Colin, you just flat out don't know what you're talking about. They all call him full of shit.
Well,
And
that's the litmus test right now. If you don't want Gregg to go, then that
You don't
means
know the sport.
Then you don't know the game. All
true.
right.
And it's true too.
So
Your boy Tony Miola said it exactly right. He's like, what is up with our group of players? Why can't this coach make this player better than worse players from before? I think it boils into that. You know, I love it.
So what does Gregg need to do in your mind to keep his job? He has to win the tournament. He has to make the semis. How far? What does it have to? What's a success?
He has to make it clear. He's shown flexibility before. It's a little slow, but he's shown it before. If he offers the flexibility of removing most of his tactics from his team and just setting them up to play a simpler game,
Most of his like no more tactics.
no more playing out the back over and over and over and over again, no matter how much it fails against all quality opposition all the time. How about that? How about that for a change, Gregg? That needs to happen. I just need to see a team playing a confident game where they hold the ball when they need to, they hit long balls, they have a more of an aggressive nose for scoring goals creatively. I just need to see a simpler team. Simpler. One that's a little more open. I'd like to see the U.S. teams of old. You know, I'm not against when they play Brazil for them to hold tight and not have the ball. That's expected. Do that. Do what merge into what you need to do to play well and win these games. That's what I want to see from Gregg. Right now, I'm hearing a lot of another learning experience and a lot of, the players really didn't perform today. He threw his players on the bus against Colombia. And it's like, Gregg, you're the coach. Nobody else in the world is supposed to get ready for this game except for you. That's your job. As been shared, he gets paid more than the national team coaches of Spain and Belgium for this job. Okay, it's not a low-paying job. It is one of the highest-paying national team jobs on the market, by the way. And Gregg is making $2.5 million a year, more than Luis Enrique did for Spain, more than Roberto Martinez did for Belgium. And what he's doing with it, he's offering mediocrity. He's offering very simply read tactics. You know, that what I want to see is I want him to be like, which is why I'm not going to see it because it's such a quick change. He needs to just send the guys out there, play freely. That's what I want to see. That's all I want to see.
All right.
I'm not going to see it, Bjorn. We're going to inchworm our way around. We're going to get a sloppy victory against Panama, a sloppy victory against Bolivia, a tire loss against Uruguay, and we're going to lose to Brazil or Colombia in the quarters. And if that happens, he needs to be fired. I believe that this summer is a make or break for him. In order for him not to be fired, he has to make a confident run to the semis or the finals. That's true. I think that's true.
All right. And then you'll be happy though? Or are you rooting for the team to lose?
No. I would never ever root against. I would never want the team to fail to get rid of Gregg. It's not about Gregg personally. It's about how the team plays. If the team all of a sudden plays with this freedom under him and make a run to the semis, if that's the new norm, then hell yeah, Gregg. I want that at the World Cup. So keep Gregg as well. It's not the Gregg of it. It's just what Gregg has been offering over the last 6 years. I'm done with it. I liked it at first. I thought it was appropriate. It was a good experiment, the anti-Klinsmann experiment. But the experiment has caused quite middling results, and there's no point to keep committing to that. Let's switch it up. Let's fire him. Let's get a new guy. He can't do it. Nobody new can do any worse. I don't believe anybody new can do any worse. So that's my Gregg spew. Obviously, I'm definitely more connected to the team than you are. But I mean, I think we've reached a point where the reasonable takes aren't really into Gregg much.
I'm not a fan of the team, so it's different.
Yeah, but let's say Gregg doesn't get out of the group this summer. Do you think he should be the head coach through the World Cup?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think it's going to take for him to... If Gregg gets out of the group and loses to Colombia in the quarterfinals, is that good enough?
Yeah, I think. I mean, yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's the performances play a part in that. I think if they play them well and they lose in penalties, maybe. I mean, at this point, actually, as I'm listening to you, I think they should fire him no matter what. It's like, it seems like everybody's tired of it. He's had 6 years.
Not like, if he wins, he deserves to keep his. You don't fire him if he wins.
But maybe he should quit if he wins and just be like, all right, I'm out. Like, leave on a high. I think he should be done after this tournament, no matter what. That's my opinion now.
Really? Well, that's now more extreme than what I was offering. Quite the turn, Bjorn.
I'm bored with defending him. I think he should leave, and we should have somebody else, and then the team will continue to have good performances and bad, and be pretty mediocre, and then you're gonna hate that guy.
I think that's unfair. I've been a fan since Bruce, and I don't remember the discourse under anybody other than Gregg, and it's not because of Twitter and all. We criticized Bruce and Bob as well after every game, but it was not like this because they weren't offering the same mistakes over
it's
and over.
It's always
over
been
again.
like, it's in my perception of it, it's always been like this.
Bruce's criticism in 06 was he didn't give him enough direction. So there you go. Bob was given a tough time. Jorgen's criticism was he wasn't a good coach. And
because he's not.
That was very valid.
And he was like playing people. He was like
out of position and
playing
stuff.
people in weird spots.
But with Klinsmann, it was always something different, though. It was like there's a big divide in the locker room. Did Klinsmann make that happen? The tactics are off here and there. With Klinsmann, there was always a bunch of stuff happening. With Gregg, it's the same mistake happening over and over and over again. That's the difference.
So
and it's kind of frustrating at this
point.
In my opinion, it is, right? I mean, what's the definition of insanity?
I think there's a lot of confirmation bias at work. It's like everybody now sees the team, watches the team through this lens, and so you only. I mean, I bet if we did that thing where you disguise the player, you just like have stick figures, and I would play you a Gregg performance and a Bruce Arena performance, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference necessarily.
I guarantee you I'd tell. I'd take that challenge. I guarantee you I'd tell the difference.
All right.
One plays out of the back over and over again to turnovers and chagrin. The other changes up and plays more long balls.
All right.
And is way better with set pieces. Why aren't we good with set pieces, for crying out loud? When did that change? It's just crazy that everything we had going for us changed. Goalkeepers, set pieces, grit, that all went out the window the minute a better batch of players showed up. And I point the finger to the coach for that.
For the goalkeeper thing?
Bring back... Yes, if you have no goalkeepers that can play with their feet, why do you force them to play with their feet, Bjorn? Zach Steffen and Matt Turner, it's like they can't play with their feet, Gregg. For crying out loud.
I thought that
Stop
was
forcing them to.
I thought that was Zach Steffen's whole thing.
Whole thing of what?
That's what they always said. Oh, he's so good with his feet. And I'm like, well, he's not. Doesn't
no
seem
one
very,
ever said that.
Doesn't seem very good at. That was exactly what it is.
He was better with his feet. They didn't say he was good with his feet.
Everybody said that. That was like, and I was like, he's not. Doesn't seem good at much else. But
coaching 101 is if you don't have a guy with feet, don't use their feet. I mean, right? Tell Matt Turner, you don't play out of the back, you don't use your feet because we don't have them. So I don't know. That's also on Gregg a little bit. I mean,
it's all his fault. I mean,
I've just gotten to a point where I'm done defending him.
It's
people who are defending him, I don't have much time for anymore. Okay, at this point, it's just contrarian that stuff. No, I'm not talking to you. I just I feel I justified the fact that me, along with all sorts of indie pundits, established pundits, coaches,
No, I think
players,
at this point,
media,
I think
we've all had it. We're all done.
I think it seems like the time has come.
the time has come.
I do agree. I do agree.
If he wins the Copa, though, then he deserves to keep his spot. That is also true, though.
I think if I were Gregg and I won the Copa, I'd be like, I am out of here. You guys.
Yeah, but again, but Gregg doesn't have real pressure. All he has to do is not turn on Twitter.
Oh my God! Here we go again. Here we go with
I didn't
that.
want to talk about this, but Gregg could coach forever. He's not given any real pressure.
The pressure. He doesn't have enough pressure. People are not mean enough to him. He had fucking like the Reina family.
That's not the media.
Regurgitate his like.
That's not the media.
He hasn't like taken enough shit from
That's not
having
the
this
media.
job. Like that's the problem.
Those are his friends.
We have to be meaner to him.
Those are people he knew.
He needs more pressure. He's going to perform better if we don't like. I don't think that's the problem.
I mean, that's another thing about U.S. soccer. Franco Panizzo or whatever, who covered the U.S. for 60 games, a real journalist. He very much came out and said, "I was around the U.S. soccer sphere for years. The regulars are afraid to actually offer an opinion because they'll lose their credentials and it affects their relationship."
And who cares? Like, what does that matter?
We need real
that
pressure
matters
on the
because
coach.
you need more pressure on the coach, and that does then
to
people
let a
do
fire
better.
under his ass.
People do better because he's just complacent. He doesn't really care. He's not fully applying himself.
Maybe there is a thing to it. This is a decent debate where the U.S. soccer job has no pressure. Therefore, you're in a better environment to succeed. Right? Is that where you're coming from?
I think it's neutral. I think it's a
valid point. I think it's a valid point.
I don't think it's better to not have pressure. I think people are competitive. People are trying their best. It's not like, oh, he's just like, oh, fuck, what are they going to do to me? He's just like rolling into work asleep. He's like Walter Matthau, the Bad News Bears, because he's like, well, there's nobody else. Like, obviously,
no, Bjorn, the Bad News Bears won. Okay, they were a much better team than the US team.
Yeah, my analogies are all off tonight. But I think that really irks me. Actually, I don't think it's better to not have pressure. I don't think it's worse. I think it's like whatever. But what irks me is this idea that this is what passion is. This is what a real journalist does, or what real fans do. We hold people accountable, and we're being assholes to them because that's how they perform at their best. Like this nonsense when like the ultras round up a team in Germany. This is not just an American thing. In Germany, the ultras then berate the players.
It happened in Italy. There was shots of doing Italy
for what? Like they weren't. I mean, I think probably there are some instances where
like
this
NYCFC yelling at what's his face, Jimmy Sands.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys. I was like, oh my God. Like
You're crossing a line.
I was embarrassed for them.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, it's not your place. And it's also, I mean, sometimes there probably are instances where teams quit on the coach or people are like phoning it in. I think it's not like that never happens. But in general, I mean, that certainly is not the case for this U.S. men's national team. People are applying themselves. I think that should just be the assumption until proven otherwise. It's like, people don't lose on purpose, or they're just like, oh, I don't care, or whatever. Or this idea of like, oh, we need to be meaner to them, and that's gonna tell them that they need to do. It's like, I think that whole psychology is nonsense. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think you got to find a happy medium, because the other side of it is U.S. fans pay ridiculous. They start at $100. They're paying all this money, committing to the team, giving their time, giving their kids away from school. Yeah. There has to be some sort of accountability. Can't just be like, we know you hate Gregg. Who's our brother? We hired him. He's going to be head coach for the next 10 years. By the way, tickets start at $200.
I think there's lots of reasons.
Some sort of accountability.
I think there's lots of reasons to be upset with U.S. soccer. I think they're not a great organization. I agree. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm not saying like, oh, everything's
should
great.
Be there to put accountability. Like when Gregg loses 5-1 in a friendly and smoke, first question should be like, why were the players who you've had for 6 years and 2 weeks not prepared today? That should be question one, right? He's a coach. He needs to answer that question. He owes us an answer. Do you think that's inappropriate of the press to ask that question for the people?
I mean, it's a posture. What is he going to say? I think I did watch his press conference, and it's not like he was. It didn't sound like he
his
was
players under the bus.
I don't think so. I mean, we saw it, right? There were a lot of individual mistakes. The people were doing stuff he didn't tell them to. It's like there was, and this is also something that happens is at the end of the season, they're getting ready for a tournament. This is the first friendly. Everybody's like, kind of rampant. Their heads are not fully in the game. It's not all on Gregg. I mean, but whatever. Listen, I won't deny you your Gregg rant. It's fine, but that stuff is like, defense, I mean, especially considering all this this whole Reyna situation, and then he had to like get suspended from his job for 3 months. It's like, I mean, it's not like he hasn't had enough. He hasn't faced enough pressure. The entire,
he did that to himself.
He did that to himself? How did he do that to himself?
He beat his wife. That's why that happened, Bjorn. You remember that, right? Did the devil hop into his brain for a day? Are you one of those guys and it wasn't his fault? It's human resources. I don't have that under my belt. That's not going to be an issue for me. Because I don't have domestic violence under my belt. If it's HR stuff, you don't sweep it under the rug. If someone brings out your dirty laundry, you have to deal with it. It's not like, was it appropriate for someone to air out his dirty laundry? No. However, it happened, and he's a high-powered position at the U.S. Soccer nonprofit organization. He's the head coach of the national team. The national team HR department needs to offer us something. And so that's what they did. And I thought he was going to go. I think he was up for a club, but then they really found a way to bring him back, which is a mistake. In my defense, it took him 6 years to get this out of me. Right? He earned this from me. I wasn't harping right away. I was all about it. But really, over the years, he cracked all of us. He cracked everybody. It's done with, I think. I think that's what's going on. There's just no point to sit there and think Gregg was the best choice and the Gregg soccer is the best we could have done over the last 5 years, and I just don't buy any of that. I think Gregg did better than bad, but Gregg was not excellent. He was just, the national team was back to normal under him after a time we missed the World Cup, and for that I thank him for it. But I do believe we have an opportunity to excel, and we're not seeing any excelling. We're seeing the same mistakes over and over again, and I'm at my wit's end. I think so are all the pundits, players, coaches, media members, and the fans. I think we join the crazies so that we're at our wit's end. What's going to save his job? An outstanding Copa, and I would love for that to happen. I would love for Gregg to figure it out. I'd love for him to be like, we're going to play amazing. We're going to give it to Colombia and Brazil, and then we're going to go to Miami. We're going to give it to fucking Messi and Argentina in the final. I would love for that to happen this summer to save his job. I don't think it will happen this summer, but I would love for that to happen this summer. So, and Gregg could keep his job after that. Unlike you, who thinks he should be fired no matter what happens.
I think he should leave. I think I'm tired. I'm sure he's tired too.
We're all tired. We're tired of Gregg. We want more non-Gregg. We want more We're ready for the non-Gregg era. I'll take Dave Sarakin back. He's coaching in Israel right now, I think. I'll take him back. He's assistant coaching Robbie Keane in Israel last time.
All right. Well, then problem solved.
Here's one.
Like Michael Bradley. We could literally hire anyone. Michael Bradley.
That would be U.S. Soccer's Vincent Kompany. He's an assistant to his dad in Norway right now, kind of out of the way. No one's really talking about him these days. But the dude was like a soccer savant. That's what people kept telling me. They said he's going to be some super coach. He's young. I think he'd be, if Michael Bradley was announced their next head coach, I am excited to see what that era brings. I would be into that.
All right. I'm going to hit this.
Yeah, I've been waiting on you to hit the outro music for a while now. I'll keep talking about
too
Gregg all
weak.
day. I
I've
want
been
it to
too
be a
weak.
30-minute
I've been-
episode. It's an hour.
I've been too weak to push the button.
Danny, I'm sorry we didn't get into U.S. men's national
Yeah,
talk.
he's a Belize. Who's
NYCFC.
coaching? Who's coaching Belize? Daniel Young.
Get
Are you
Gregg.
happy?
Get
Are
Gregg.
you
We'll give
happy
Gregg.
with? Are you happy with the Belize coach? Are they doing all right?
And who's NYCFC playing this week? Let's do a little NYCFC talk. He's
We're
looking
playing
forward to it.
Columbus on Friday. I'm gonna miss it. I'm
Ooh.
invited. I'm
Will
invited to a
Fernandes.
screening
A screening of?
a documentary that my friend edited at the Tribeca Film Festival
Hey.
about Luther Vandross.
All right, maybe Robert De Niro will be there. It'll be a lot of fun.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe.
Ask him about his thoughts on Gregg and the U.S. men's national
Maybe
team.
Robert De Niro wants to coach. If I find somebody to coach,
Robert
I'll
De Niro
send
would be
him.
amazing. He'd sit there quietly and be like, all right, you know what to do.
We're gonna have a triumvirate. We're gonna have a threesome of Robert De Niro, Dave Sarachin,
Sarachin.
and Michael Bradley, and we're
that
gonna
is-
win the World Cup. We're gonna win the World Cup in 2006. No,
Win
this
the
is
World Cup.
actually
We'll win World War III with that triumph.
this is
right, kid?
actually going to fall apart 2 months before the World Cup, and then they're gonna get Rudy Feller,
Yeah.
and he's gonna win the World Cup with the
No
USA
joke. No joke.
in
Rudy Feller.
2026.
No joke. Rudy Feller would be a great U.S. men's national team
Anybody.
coach.
I mean, Rudy Feller would be a great coach for anyone.
Anybody who's inspiring and keeps it simple, I can't think of a better
Anything he
than
touches
Rudy Feller.
turns to gold, Rudy Feller.
And he's not going to do play out the back. I learned these tactics in Chapel Hill nonsense. He's going to be like, all right, boys, you know what to do. Go do it. I love it. All right, everybody. This has been our abridged hour-long.
Abridged?
I tried to keep it
I'm
short.
like,
But the Gregg spew is real. We want, email us if you have arguments against.
email
Open
him.
to it. Email Bjorn. I don't want to hear it because I've had enough of Gregg. All right. Hashtag Gregg out. Cheers, Business Development.
Oh my God.
Go Deutschland.